Nag Ashwin's Kalki, starring Prabhas, Amitabh Bachchan, Deepika Padukone and Kamala Hassan, is out. And the film is set in a dystopian world and it has to do with the birth of Kalki, the final avatar of Lord Vishnu. Now, the film is India's costliest movie. It was made on a budget of 600 crores. But that's not the only reason why it's so eagerly anticipated. Now, Hindi cinema hasn't had a hit this year. It's been a dry 6 months so far. Like the Messiah in the film, can Kalki be the one that will bring people into theatres? To talk about this, I have with me director-writer Saurabh Verma, and in the studio I have with me two film buff colleagues of mine, Krishna Kumar and Anthony Rosario. Anthony has, by the way, seen the film today. First day, first show. Anthony, first over to you. What's the film like?
Can I be brutally honest?
Absolutely.
I think the show, I think the film 3 hours, if you look at the duration and if you calculate the intervals and the many ads, it's too painful. Movie could have just been 2 hours. A action sequence that can just be 5 minutes is like stretching to 15 minutes.
Right.
So I think in terms of testing the viewer's attention, I think it has definitely tested
What is
mine.
the one thing that you wanted when you were watching
I
the film?
wanted, okay, I understand
What object did you want?
Okay, I understand that when you're telling a story, you would like to add a few complications here and there, puzzle the viewer, but not puzzle the viewer to an extent where he's just going astray. So I thought that there were too many characters involved. I think they could have told the same story with fewer characters and a much more simpler storyline. I think that is what is missing.
Much more simpler storyline over long.
It's like I want to go to
something
Calcutta and then I go to Chennai and then I go to Odisha.
Pair of scissors for Anthony.
And then
there you go.
Yeah, actually that is what I actually want, because 3 hours needs to be chopped to 2. Definitely to 2.
It's a 3 hour film, right? Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's, again, to cut it short, if I want to go to Calcutta from Delhi, then I'll go to Bombay, then I'll go to Bangalore, then I'll probably go to Chennai, Hyderabad, Odisha, and then I'll come to Calcutta. So eventually I do come to Calcutta.
Saurabh's joined us, he's smiling. Saurabh, have you seen the film? What's your take on it?
So I've been to cinemas and I checked the audience reaction. So I agree with the gentleman here, because the problem is that, there's very, when you make a building, the most important thing is the base for the building,
right,
which is basically the script in the case of films. And I think we are trying to hurry up in making content. Last moment tak post production ho raha hai, cheeze ho raha hai. And whereas in Hollywood, what they do is they make a film, they get a focus group, they get customer reaction and click on it. South has an amazing fan following. I mean, they have die-hard loyal fans.
Right.
Which surprises me is that why are we taking them for granted? Why is that? Why is all the effort put in marketing but not the content? And the first and foremost thing is that patience is going away. I mean, reels beyond 30 seconds lose interest. And we're trying to make a 3-hour film. So somewhere down the line, length is wrong. The first half is extremely haphazard and boring. Then it tries to control the whole thing. So I think it's a South Indian thali with some 100 katoris in one thali.
My God, so South Indian thali with 100 katoris.
I would
Krishna
add
is
200.
listening.
I would say 200.
200 katoris. My goodness. 100 katoris. Was it what you expected?
So
You're looking forward to watching it this weekend.
Well, I mean, it really depends upon the reactions I'm getting. I mean, if I were to talk to Anthony, I don't think I'll end up going to the movie theater to watch the movie.
Sharpening his scissors over there. Look at him.
Anthony, I think we'll go to the movie theaters and stop people from entering the movie theaters to watch at this rate. But, apart from the food analogies like South Indian thali, all I can say is that, look, I think Indians have two pairs of eyes when they view Indian films and when they watch Hollywood films. So when you watch a Hollywood film, you're willing to give it all that indulgence and that excess for a 3-hour movie, because you're like, all these things that he spoke about, like, there's the focus groups and all that.
Yes.
I have seen some of these Hollywood films like Spider-Man 3, Avengers 2 and 3, which bored the hell out of me. I have no respect for a Spider-Man 3. I have no respect for Avengers 2 and 3, simply because they went through the process of, focus groups and, sitting for 5 years and making a movie. Doesn't necessarily mean that final content is always going to be bang on. I still don't know whether Kalki 2898 AD is a good movie or a bad movie.
You haven't seen it yet.
But I do know that there is a problem as far as Indians are concerned when it comes to certain genres. Superhero genres, sci-fi, they are already preordained to think that India mein ye sab nahi karna chahiye.
Right.
Just Hollywood is better at doing this. That's a very clear bias I've seen. So like Indians means that Indians should make like family movies, emotional movies. At best, mythology movies. And all of that. So I would guard myself against critics of Kalki 2898 AD who are comparing it with Hollywood films. If at all, if somebody can view it as an Indian film, an organic Indian film, at the same, doing it for the Indian audience. And let's face it, this is not meant for the white people in America. This is meant for those people who are there watching a 6 a.m. show in Hyderabad, a 6 a.m. show in Andhra.
Absolutely.
So, if it has to satisfy them, as long as it satisfies them, I think the primary target audience has been satisfied.
Yeah, and Anthony saw it in a 9 a.m. show. Anthony.
9 a.m. show, and I fell asleep.
Was it packed?
Imagine what the people at 6 a.m. they would have fallen asleep.
Was the theatre packed? I
No,
mean,
it wasn't. It wasn't
packed. But coming back to Saurabh, you're in the center of the whole thing. You're in Bollywood. You're in the middle of the industry there right now, calling, dialing up from Juhu. But tell us how important it is for Kalki to really succeed. It's been a dry 6 months for the industry, not one hit. And last year was the most successful, year ever. You had movies crossing 1,000 crores, like Jawan, Pathan, and Gadar. Twice over, exactly. And Shah Rukh Khan, the return of Shah Rukh Khan. How important is Kalki? How important is it for it to hit, become a hit?
So 2-3 films we the whole industry is banking on. One obviously is Pushpa 2, which is going to come in December. It's been shifted, so that's a big setback. And Kalki, people had a lot of hopes because it's going to fetch in the revenues, exhibitions, coffers are going to be filled and everything. So the films, no doubt, is going to take a great opening, great weekend. That I don't think there's any doubt because there's huge enough fans, there's huge enough marketing hype. People are going to throng to the cinema. The test of the film will be maybe after Monday or something. But yes, the dependency on this film is extremely high. Everybody's hoping with their fingers crossed that the film works. The only problem which I feel is that look at the poster behind you. The characters, what they're wearing, what they're doing. This is not India. This is not Ashwatthama. This is not the way India works. So, when you make a thali, you don't put a Szechuan chutney into that. So again, I'm taking a cooking reference. So my problem is that, when you're serving the Indian palate, then serve the Indian palate. So that's my only this thing.
See, it's not sanskari enough. Saurabh says it's not sanskari enough.
Strangely enough.
I have an interjection.
It's a sci-fi film.
I have an interjection in terms of Ashwatthama and Amitabh Bachchan because there's a 6,000 year gap, right? And he's supposedly living through all of it.
Yes.
It's been living hell for him because he can't.
Are you revealing plot details over here?
No, it's a basic premise, right?
We all know that.
So by the time we come back, he comes back to whatever. He's always he's like mummified and all of that.
Right,
so I think that explains his look in the poster. That is my
right. But it's a sci-fi film, right? I mean, it's got to look a certain way. It has to look like Dune, perhaps. I mean, I got Dune-like vibes.
I got the Mad Max vibes as well, watching Deepika Padukone as
that
Furiosa.
Oh, right.
And of course, the fact that it's a post-apocalyptic world, shot on resources. So it is obviously going to be inspired by so many of these things. And strangely, not many people know this, but the VFX team that worked on this film worked on Dune, worked on Oppenheimer, worked on Interstellar, and Inception, and Tenet. So, interestingly, so that is one thing. And the other thing is that look at the effort that they went to make this vehicle called Budgie, which is the protagonist's main ride. That wasn't just a CG computer-generated affair. You had Mahindra & Mahindra developing that car in association with another automotive company. Costs about 4 crore rupees. It weighs over 6 tons. I just find it interesting that these kind of efforts are being made.
Yes.
I don't know if none of this means that the final product is fine. None of this means that it makes for a good it makes for a good movie. But if you ask me what the curiosity is, has all of this resulted, as he was talking about, does it have a good screenplay, a good script that holds your interest together? And again, as far as the length of films is concerned, I would give it that initial benefit of the doubt because it's supposed to be part of the Kalki cinematic universe.
Yes.
So I'm guessing they've got to spend at least 45 minutes to an hour setting up this universe. So you've got to give that setup time as well. That is given for all Hollywood films which are setting you in a particular universe. So I would go in with that mindset, assuming the first half an hour, 45 minutes, not too much plot is going to take place, and probably the plot will start kicking in post the first hour.
Plot will start. He's like, no.
Yeah, Anthony, no more plot details to be revealed. But Saurabh, the thing is, what you mentioned is two of the biggest films this year. Kalki, 600 crore budget, and of course, possibly the most anticipated movie of the last couple of years, Pushpa 2. It's like that monster lurking out there. It's like, Godzilla underwater and slowly emerging. December. Is this kind of switched the paradigm of Bollywood being the damsel in distress that has to be rescued periodically by South Indian cinema.
No, I mean the actual fact is that pandemic has made a lot of changes. This year there's no Shah Rukh, there's no Salman. Hrithik fighter after that there's no Hrithik, there's no
Right.
Amir Khan. There's no big actor film coming this year. So that's the actual fact. The other thing is that the lines are diminishing. I mean the lines between Hollywood, Hindi, regional, everything is diminishing. And that's why you see and there is a lot of silver lining to the whole thing as well. Like a Munjia, which is made at a very normal budget, has crossed 100 crores. This wasn't possible if all these biggies would have been coming. So a lot of things are happening, and what one thing to celebrate about a film like Kalki is also that the kind of fanaticism the movie buffs that come out to watch such a film. It's not just a film watching; it's a celebration. So that's something which is extraordinary, and that's we are the only country in the world where South has this kind of a loyalty, this kind of a
Yes.
movie madness in the whole thing. So that's something to celebrate.
That's something to celebrate, and Krishna, this is the big story of the last couple of years, right? I mean, you earlier had compartmentalized cinema, you had your sandalwood and your Tollywood and all those woods, but now you're
With
looking
Bollywood being the big brother.
Bollywood being the big
as
brother.
the actual national, film,
Yes.
industry. Others are these little achars, little pickles coming from South India. And if you're talking about class cinema, it has to be only Bengali.
Yes.
Because, you have Satyajit Ray, that's the only class cinema.
Right.
If you want big budget, it's only Hollywood. People watching cinema had these things in their heads. If it is big budget, if it's
Yes.
sci-fi, it has to be Hollywood.
Yes.
Hollywood is perfect. Hollywood is correct.
Right.
India should not even try to do any of these things. If it's class cinema, we can make Satyajit Ray kind of artistic cinema, and that's about it.
Right.
India cannot possibly even think of these films which have the aesthetics of artistic cinema, at the same time tell, larger than life kind of stories. So that was broken. And basic is this. The amount of content consumption that happens down south in terms of films and TV
Yes.
series is insanity compared to what happens, in the rest of the country. People here in the upper half of the country probably end up watching, 3 movies a year, 5 movies a year in the movie theater. People down south watch 3 movies a month in the movie theater. So, the levels of content consumption is different and
Yes.
levels of ownership is different.
Right.
They don't look at their cinema and go we are this small industry, what can we do in front of Hollywood? That thing, never
Right.
existed. We do what we do really well.
Yes.
Hollywood does what it does really well. We'll watch Hollywood film for what it's worth. We'll watch a Tamil film or a Telugu film for what it's worth, and a Hindi film for what it's
Right.
worth. So what is
everyone coexists at the same time.
Yeah, and there is no sense of condescension while watching an Indian movie.
Yes.
It's like that is very, very important. And in the northern half of the country, especially in cities like Delhi and Bombay,
Yes.
you have these people who watch a Hindi movie or watch a Hollywood movie, constantly telling themselves that Hindi movies are never going to be as good as Hollywood movies, and then just appreciating Hollywood movies, and even the most average fare that comes out of Hollywood, they will hail it as the all-time great classic.
Yeah.
But whereas an Indian film attempting to do something innovative, attempting to do something big,
Right.
would be harshly criticized because it's easy. Words are easy to criticize. You can just pick a movie and just slaughter it because that's the easiest thing to do. It's fun to do it. But
is.
that is changed because Bahubali came
Yes.
and changed it.
Yes.
Because still you had people who say, oh, that kind of movie, only Gladiator is good.
Right.
India cannot make a Gladiator. India made Gladiator made Gladiator Part 1 and Part 2, and Part 2 was a bigger hit than the Part 1. So, a lot of these attitudes, derisive attitude towards Indian cinema changed post Bahubali. And Kalki arrives at a time when
Yes.
you don't have to be ashamed about attempting sci-fi at that scale anymore.
Absolutely. But Krishna, let's ask Saurabh what are the big Bollywood films that he's looking forward to watching this year and possibly the next. What are the big, really big films that are, in the pipeline, Saurabh? Tell us.
So there is a bag full of Akshay Kumar and Ajay Devgan films. So those are there.
Right.
Those are a lot in that kitty. Then you have a Varun Dhawan film, again with the South Indian director called Little John. So that's an action flick, a very old boy kind of a thing. So there are films coming, but it's very difficult to predict which one is going to be a short winner because somewhere down the line, there's not something which you say, oh yeah, this film I want to really watch it. Can't wait. I can say that surely for Pushpa 2 for sure. Or maybe, the Surya film coming or an NTR film coming. Hindi, they are very few selective dots which you are waiting for them to, come with their marketing plan and then surprises. Munjia was one. I had never heard of that film before the marketing started.
Right.
We were not that this thing. So now that Munjia is a hit now, and so horror comedies are going to come next year. They're going to be filled with horror comedies. So this Bhed Chal is going to happen. My also other thing is that India is competent enough to make sci-fis. India is very much competent enough to make sci-fis. The only thing is they should not replicate a Dune. They should not think of a Pirates of the Caribbean when they are making Thugs of Hindustan. We have our own culture. We have our own things.
Yes.
We need to ideate a world which is more Indian. Look at Korean cinema, how they're doing it. Look at, Indonesian cinema, and they are smaller markets, but they create their own culture. So whether it's science fiction, whether it's a 500, 600 crore film, I think we can create our own culture. We don't need another Mad Max. We need another Kalki. We need another Pushpa.
Yes.
I think the genuinity of Pushpa also is showing by the way they are celebrating, their own culture. Allu Arjun in a very dazzling sari, accepting the rituals and everything,
Yes.
targeting the masses. So I think
Yes.
that's the future where
Yes.
India will showcase India rather than showcasing another Dune.
Yeah, that's the future indeed. But while we're talking about the future, Saurabh, I can't but go back into the past. 28 years back, a movie called Indian that came out, and you have a sequel after almost 3 decades.
Well.
Half of India wasn't born there, but you're looking forward to that movie, Krishna.
Well, look, it is another big budget movie. There's been no hype for the movie so far because it's been in production for 7 years
Yes.
now. The music released and people
Right.
did not really like the music all that much. The
Yes.
trailer just released about 48 hours ago. Look, the thing here is that it has got Kamal Hassan at the center of it all,
Yeah.
playing a 100-plus-year-old man who was once part of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Indian National Army.
Yes.
It has director Shankar behind this movie.
Right.
So, yes, if this movie 3 years ago, it had everything going for it. Even 4 years ago, it had everything going for it. But
Yes.
now it's coming a tad too late, but you cannot not notice the fact that this movie is releasing because the first one was a blockbuster of epic proportions when it
Yes.
came out, not just in the Tamil language in which it was originally made as Indian, in a
Yes.
Hindi dubbed version, it was called Hindustani, and a lot of Hindi-speaking audiences from that time who remember the movie very clearly. You ask them now, what is Varma Kala or the martial art that the
Yes.
old man uses? They remember it.
Right.
They remember the old Kamal Hassan's character. They remember all that stuff that goes on. One of the first films to have Indian hero and heroine dance in foreign locations with the foreign backup dancers behind them, much before Hindi cinema started doing it. So
Right,
it was
started the trend almost.
it had begun the trend. Telephone Dhun Mein Hasne
Yes,
Wali was
yes.
a super hit.
Melbourne Machli Machalne Wali.
Absolutely, you remember it very well. So no
That
one,
was the trio.
and that is the only reason why if a film can have such great recollection 28 years down the
Yes.
line, the sequel needs to be so good that it justifies its
Yeah,
existence.
absolutely.
But my fear is that the sequel is going to find it very, very difficult to justify its existence.
Sequel, yeah, absolutely. And that's a story that we'll come back to later next week when Indian 2 is out. But thanks very much for joining us this evening, Saurabh, my colleague Anthony, and of course, Krishna Kumar. Anthony has incidentally done the review of this film. He's sharpened his scissors and let it go on the movie. So you can watch that later in this episode.